grid. It's an awesome scene for 2018 as we are back on track for DTM. Delighted briefly to welcome alongside me a BMW junior driver who's joining us in comms to give us a driver's eye perspective. He's been out in one of the DTM race taxis. Ricky Collard, welcome. Great to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Good afternoon, David.
Are you as excited as we are at the start of the season? It seems to have been a long winter as we look at one of your BMW brand mates, Augusto Farfus.
That's a good flick of the hair there by Augusto. No, I'm super excited. You know, it's the first race of the season. We've already seen how close it can be in qualifying. Looking through the grid, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 drivers all in a 32.4. We've got another 1, 2, 3, 4 drivers all in the 32.7. Whole grid within a second. Pick a name out the hat.
It's always been close, hasn't it? But it just does seem to be even closer than ever. We look at Pascal Wehrlein, of course, former DTM champion, former Formula One driver, back into the DTM. And this young man, this young Austrian, Lucas, a super young character. Will he be in the hunt for the championship this year? You wouldn't bet against any of the 18 drivers, would you?
No, but you've got to remember, Lucas was on pole position here last year and had a strong win. Obviously, it was hunted down closely then by Glock at the end, but, you know, Lucas is a serious peddler. He's extremely fast, and this man was hot.
Magic.
Yeah, as if by magic, this man was hot on his heels. And I'm sure that Timo Glock going off P3 today will be, well, he's got to be there, hasn't he?
All the drivers are real racers, but Timo, he's got that real racer character about him as well. He wears his heart, his aggression, his cheer on the sleeve, and I have to say, he's one of the people that I enjoy talking to the most, because you know you're not going to get any, what's the word? You're going to get it straight from Timo. He's going to tell you the way it is. Interestingly, the difference in character between himself and this man, Marco Wittmann, who is going from P2, he's quite quiet, he's quite assumed. How do you get on with him?
Yeah, I get on really well with Marco. I was teammates with him the other week in Monza. And again, I get on really well with him. He's got a really nice road car from BMW, so
okay.
We opted to take his car instead of my rental car.
Yes, Ricky Collard was in a mini Metro courtesy of the rental company. This is our pole sitter. Gary Pafford, who I mentioned, is a stalwart in the DTM, and of course there's a tinge of sadness here because of course it is Mercedes' last year in the DTM, and of course Gary, having been with the DTM and with Mercedes for so very long, of course they will hope very much to make this a season to count, won't they? Yeah,
definitely. And you know, obviously Gary, and he's been in DTM for, like I say, multiple years, so he is definitely going to be pushing as it's his final year. Obviously he pushes every year, but you know, there is going to be 110%. I reckon we're going to see a different Gary Cat this year.
Well, let's see.
Gary Paffett, sorry.
Well, might be known as Gary Cat. Luki Auer then in car number 22. A new livery for Lucas Auer this year, and I have to say it is growing on me. Of course, he and Eduardo Mortara last year had all pink cars. This is much more appealing, I think, for you, Lucas. So let's see where you can go from P4 on the grid. There is the BMW of Marco Wittmann. Of course, championship material of no doubt, as indeed is Gary Paffett. But as Ricky has said alongside me, you go down the entire grid of 18 cars. Well, 19 cars, because Matthias Ekstrom, of course, is in these two races this weekend to say cheerio to his fans. You can't bet against any of them. And it will be interesting to see what the strategies play out in this race, because track temperature is very good. With less aero, that means you need more mechanical grip, Ricky. So our driver's going to be more aggressive on the formation lap in terms of trying to generate some temperature into those tyres?
Yeah, one of the big things is everything is done as a proper system. So,
yes.
You know, the drivers are told, you know, you've got to do a certain amount of burnouts, and, you know, they're going to be obviously working the tyres extremely hard on the outlap like they would anyway. But what's interesting is you see some drivers might do more burnouts than others, cost the rear tyres maybe a little bit towards the end of a run, but then however they're going to get a better start because the tyres are going to be warmer.
Oh, I see.
But then at the same time you've got to make sure they're not too hot as well. So yeah, it's going to be...
Another question I'd like to ask, which your racing driver experience will tell me. Gary Paffett, Marco Wittmann on the front row of the grid, when they go off on their formation lap, they're going to vigorously weave from side to side. As you say, the teams are going to tell them exactly what to do with the tyres in terms of preparation. When they come back to their grid boxes, they're the ones, of course, that have to wait the longest for the cars right at the rear of the grid to come into their grid boxes. Surely, Ricky, whatever temperature they've delivered into those tyres, it's gone, isn't it?
Well, yeah, that's why it's so important that they do build the heat into the rear tyres. But one person then that we all know that's probably going to make a flyer here is the man starting on P18. Matthias Ekström. He's going to arrive on the grid with the perfect temperature in his tyres. It'll be interesting to see how the guys at the front get off the line, and especially with the dirty side of the track and the clean side of the track, because I think we've got team radio here from Rast.
Yeah, not always able to ascertain exactly what the team radio tells us, sadly, but you're right. Matthias Ekström, and as was said earlier on, are we going to see some of that Matthias magic today? Possibly so, I would say. Of course, he wants to end his DTM career. I mean, what a phenomenal career he's had. But to top it with some good finishes in his goodbye races, if you like. What was really interesting, though, Ricky, when I interviewed him, as I say, a week or so ago, was he wouldn't rule out a comeback. And I really pushed him on that. I said, come on, Matthias, you know, you're liking the way the series is being developed. Is this goodbye or is it au revoir? And he said, and he wouldn't answer, really. So that says to me that, you know, never say never.
Au revoir.
Yeah. Never say never. Now, interestingly, car number 22, which is Lucas Auer, is going to be reported to the stewards of the meeting for an infringement of Article 45.3.1. Now, I haven't got the rule book here, but obviously that's something to bear in mind, and we'll keep an eye on that to see whether, I mean, by virtue of the fact it's going to be reported to the stewards of the meeting, don't think that's going to have any impact at the moment. So, Toto Wolff and Uli Fritz then from Mercedes-Benz watch their driver bring the car round the final turn to put it into grid box. Gary Paffett then lighting up the rear and the back end stepping out, controlling it beautifully with some opposite lock. So there is Toto Wolff then looking on into the BMW garages. So we go as well. It's at this moment that I'm really sorry. It might not only be my voice you can hear, but my burgeoning stomach as well, because the excitement really is beginning to generate. It's been a long winter, and the roar of these cars as they light up their engines and go through their start sequence ahead of the start of the race. There's Dieter Gas from Audi to the very right-hand side of your picture there. The final cars are into their grid boxes. It's been a long while coming, but here we go. 2018 DTM, are you ready to feel the roar? Because we are, and so are thousands of spectators. We get the green flag from the marshal at the rear of the pack. We are ready to go racing. It's going to be Marco Wittmann versus Gary Paffett. Here comes that roar. Lights out, let's go racing. It is DTM for 2018. Well, Philipp Eng failing to get away right at the back of the grid. But Gary Paffett converts that pole position into the race lead, going through turn one with no problems at all. As I say, I think it was Philipp Eng that bogged down right at the start and didn't get away terribly well. So into turn number 2 now. No contact between anyone through turns 3 into the parabolica now. Gary Paffett from Marco Wittmann. Timo Glock, then it's Lucas Auer. Paul de Resta is right alongside the Audi of Nico Müller there, 51 and 3. The Paul de Resta Nico Müller car. And already trying to cut a swathe is Matthias Ekström as well. For the first time of asking, into the hairpin we go then. It's all bunched up nicely, which is exactly like we want to see. Augusto Farfus and Eduardo Mortara battling over that position. But Gary Paffett then already putting some tenths between himself and the BMW. And Lucas Auer up the inside of Timo Glock now. Does he make that stick? Yes, he does. So Luki Auer then moves up from P4 into P3 in the early stages of this race. Here comes Joel Eriksson as well. He's trying to make an overtake. This is brilliant already. And now you can see the battle going on there. That's what Joel Eriksson is involved in, and that's the battle with Robin Frijns. So on board with Matthias Ekström, who's already moved himself up and is trying to move up still further. He's involved in that battle as well. You can see the Joel Eriksson car there. I'll breathe in a moment and let Ricky Collard say something, but in the opening stages of this race, so exciting already. Gary Paffett has built up a second's margin over Marco Wittmann. So it's Paffett, Wittmann, Auer, Glock, Wehrlein, Mortara, Farfus, Spengler, Rast, and it's Mike Rockenfeller who is rounding out the top 10 at the moment. So it was Philipp Eng then that failed to get away right at the very start of this race. And that start sequence, Ricky Collard, to get one of these cars going, it's not just taking your foot off the clutch and going, is it?
Unfortunately not, no. There's obviously a lot of procedure that needs to be put in place. And like you say, it's interesting, you know, you see the experienced guys getting off the line well, and, you know, these new rookie guys struggling a little bit.
Through Sector 1, Timo Glock, the quickest of anyone. Luki Auer has got past Marco Wittmann, and he's up into P2 now. Here comes Philipp Eng trying to fight back right at the back of the pack, but in the meantime, look at this, Mercedes domination at the moment, P1 and P2, because Lucas Auer, he locks up there going into that turn, but he's got the job done and has got past Marco Wittmann, who is now relegated to P3 with the car of Timo Glock right behind him. There is Matthias Ekstrom. The last two cars are Jamie Green and Philipp Eng. Paul de Resta is now looking pretty quick as well. Lucas Auer is the quickest of anyone through the second sector. This turn, third or fourth before the last turn, there's such nice banking on that, isn't it, the Sachs turn?
You do. You see a completely different conventional racing line there. You see people going right the way around the outside to maximise the banking.
Yep.
And it's quite an interesting corner because, you know, the drivers leave the inside completely open. So if you are close, it's a
possibility.
Yeah, definite possibility.
Well, we're delighted to have the experienced, dare I say that, when he's a junior driver, Ricky Collard alongside us. Here is the overtake from Lucas Auer then. We have seen it happen here, but normally, or often, when you go to the inside, you then lose so much momentum that they get you back on the switchback.
Yeah, and definitely, and it came from a long way back.
Yeah.
That was a big move by Lucas. Very good.
So there we can see it again from a different angle. So here in replay once again.
He's not scared.
Not kidding. So the fight is on then. It's Paffett from Auer, from Wittmann, from Glock. Wehrlein, Mortara, then it's Farfus, Spengler. The best of the Audis remains René Rast, P9. Tell you what, Luki Auer, now when you consider that Gary Paffett had a second's worth of margin, Lucas Auer, he's got some pace underneath him in that car, hasn't he? I know you were looking at the sector times there, Ricky.
Yeah, you can see that now. That's 2 purple sectors in a row then for Lucas. He's chasing his teammate down. It'll be interesting to see if he can make the move.
Well, let's see. Of course, the cars do have DRS enabled, and the DRS rules are as last year, where basically you have to be within a 1 second gap of the car in front. You've got 12 laps worth of duration because you get 3 DRS activations in a lap. Now, the thing is, as I understand it, Ricky, you can use 1, 2, or 3, but if you only use 1, then you can't bank the other 2. You have to use them in that lap. Yeah,
that's correct. So, you know, it's like you cash all your chips in at once, as they say. So, obviously, now we're going to see Lucas is going to be in the DRS zone.
Yes.
And we just got to wait to see if he deploys it now going down this back straight.
Now, of course, Gary Paffett cannot use DRS because he's out on his own at the front. He's got no car within a second ahead of him. Therefore, he can't even, because you can use DRS as a defense mechanism as well as an overtake mechanism, can't you?
Yeah, definitely. And here we can see his Glock. Glock has DRS, and
yes.
Marco doesn't have DRS, so then straight away.
Glock goes through. And here comes Lucas on Gary Paffett for a change in the lead of the race. Now, as Lucas Auer gets past Gary Paffett, this will reverse the fortunes, the DRS fortunes, if you like, because Lucas Auer will not have DRS available to him now, whereas Gary Paffett will. And it can really seesaw like that, can't it?
It definitely can, and Gary, I think, will for sure stay within this 1 second margin, coming back onto the start-finish, and, yeah, see if he fights back.
Well, we will see. So Lucas Auer now is leading the race. As I said, championship contender last year, but I tell you what, Lucas already is beginning to build, and what's critical here, as you mentioned, is that Gary Paffett has got to stay within that 1 second window of Lucas Auer ahead of him, and this is how Lucas Auer set it up into the hairpin. Racing respect, of course, left between the two of them. At the same time, Timo Glock going through on Marco Wittmann. Now, the smoke coming off the back of Lucas Auer's car, presumably, is just as it's rubbing onto the tarmac.
Yeah, the cars are set up on such a fine fine comb. So, you know, you can see all the time these cars just touching the ground.
Yes.
It's not making too much of an effect on the handling. But yeah, you can just imagine how close they are on the technical side.
And imagine how fantastic this is going to look at Misano in Italy when we go night racing and those sparks flying off the bottom of the car into the night. Fantastic.
Old school.
Well, there's a bit of a facial indication there and a hand from Gary Paffett there. And now there just looked like to be a little bit of smoke coming off the back of Gary Paffett's car then, just as we were talking about smoke. He used the DRS. You could see the flap close once again. He was using it going up towards the hairpin to keep on terms with Lucas Sauer. And right at the back there is Jamie Green getting past Matthias Ekstrom. And Matthias Ekstrom now coming back. Now that was a typical sort of undercut move, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what you know is so great about this circuit. If you are slipstream down that back straight and they do manage to get down the inside of you, you know, the guy who's overtaken has got to make sure that they can get the car stopped, turned, and still get the traction on the exit. Otherwise, you know, it's quite easy to do this switchback.
Really got to stick your elbows out. Great shot of Pascal Wehrlein hard at work. He's running in P5 at the moment, chasing down that number 11 car of Marco Wittmann. So Pascal Wehrlein, of course, returning into the DTM this year from his forays into Formula One. And Marco Wittmann there, for my money, wasn't quick because he'd got the back end of the car hanging out. We like to see that sideways, but it's not the quickest way, is it, Ricky?
He's given the fans something to get a picture of, but yeah, you can just see that everything's run so close that they run just an extra 1, 2, 3 inches just wide on that curb. You know, it can really pull the car off, and then they struggle to make the second apex.
Interesting note on your screen then in graphics. René Rast is under investigation for leaving the track and gaining an advantage potentially. René Rast is currently running in P9. He, of course, is the current DTM champion, so we'll see if the race stewards decide to take any action on René Rast. I mean, track limits is still remains a very, very hot topic within all of motor racing. And it is something that the race stewards look at very, very carefully now, because there's no doubt about it. You know, if you can make a corner more sweeping, and by putting all 4 wheels off the white line, and you can get a little bit of a slingshot, it is advantageous, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's you know, it's a little bit of a shame when we see penalties like that occur. But you know, especially when you look at turn 1, if they run all 4 wheels over that curb, you know you're on a bucking Bronco by the looks of it. Yes. So you know, maybe to see a little bit more of that, bigger curbs on the exit might be something for the future.
There is always this argument, isn't it, that you know, if you were racing at Norrisring, where instead of white lines you have big heavy-duty walls, wouldn't happen. But we will see if the stewards decide to penalise René Rast in any way, shape or form. Let's go on board with Marco Wittmann now. Wittmann is now behind Timo Glock, as you well know, and is being caught, I believe, by Pascal Wehrlein, who is just marginally quicker. So there you can see, this is the two-way fight, if you like, for P4 at the moment. Of course, Marco Wittmann is out of DRS in terms of up to Timo Glock, so that means he is vulnerable to the DRS availability that Pascal Wehrlein will have in P5. So expect the number 94 car, and the first of those to show in their pits for the mandatory pit stop is René Rast. And so René Rast, I am being told, he's going to have to give a position back to Mike Rockenfeller, because Rast got past Rockenfeller. It was that incident where he gained an advantage, so he's going to have to give that position back. There you go, confirmation of that on screen. So Rast and Rockenfeller have to swap positions, and those positions are P9 and P10, so it will become Rocky P9, Rast P10. So fairly academic in terms of manufacturers, of course, because they are both Audi drivers. But what I will say is Rast had got a 1.2 second advantage over Mike Rockenfeller, so as a racing driver, you're losing a heck of a lot, aren't you, Ricky?
Yeah, that's obviously quite frustrating when you have to lift off on the straights to let your teammate pass, but well, either way, it gives us something to watch, because we're going to see Rast now probably fight back on Rocky.
Well, indeed. And
sorry, can I just say how great these onboard cameras look? You know, you can see everything that the driver's doing. You can see their steering inputs, you can see their throttle, you can see their brake, you can see everything moving around, and it really does give something back to the fans.
Yeah, no, it is fantastic, and we are privileged in terms of the access that we're given in terms of those onboard shots. Now, the wheel sensor that's to the right of the driver's controls is like a butterfly mechanism almost. That, as I understand it, that adjusts the brake bias, Ricky. Why would you adjust a brake bias?
Okay, yes, so that is correct. That's the brake bias. And I can tell you, when I just did the DTM taxi rides earlier today, you know, these cars are quite susceptible to locking on the fronts. But then at the same time, you go a turn or 2 turns too far forward, and then you're going to start locking the rears. So, you know, for example, we saw Lucas lock the front a couple of times, so I'd imagine if we were riding on board, he might have just gone a couple of turns back on his brake bias to stop that, but here's the carnage at the start.
Yes, well, actually, in fairness, I disagree with you. I don't think it was carnage. I think, yeah, a couple of cars ran wide. And I always understand from the race stewards that, actually, do you know what, on the opening lap, when everyone is together, they will allow that. But this was René Rast then, of course, getting past Mike Rockenfeller. And this is now René Rast behind Mike Rockenfeller because those positions have had to be reversed. What we also saw was Bruno Spengler, I think, getting past Augusto Farfus. Yes, sure enough, he is now ahead of Augusto Farfus. So Spengler is now up to P7 and Farfus is relegated to P8. Augusto Farfus, one of the fantastic characters in DTM. I love having my conversations with Augusto, or Gusto as he's known. As we can see now, René Rast, once again, he's got to do that overtake all over again. Got to try and find his way past Mike Rockenfeller, but do it by keeping all 4 wheels within the white lines. And you can see both of them running wide there, and a number of cars run wide. As I say, I believe, and I am led to believe, that that's the only place where it's kind of acceptable, and a blind eye, if you like, is turned to that. So the only driver that has pitted, to my knowledge, is that of Jamie Green. We saw him come in. Now, there is an additional person allowed to work on the pit stops. Last year, it got really, really reduced, and you only had 2 engineers that could actually work on those pit stops. Another engineer has been allowed in now. As we can see Mike Rockenfeller and René Rast both queuing up behind Augusto Farfus through the hairpin. Augusto Farfus sticks his elbows out, makes it as wide as possible. This, of course, is making Mike Rockenfeller very vulnerable to René Rast once again. It's an awful position to be in, isn't it, when you're hunting and having to actually defend at the same time, Ricky?
This is one of the hardest things to do as a racing driver. You know, you're constantly trying to open your line to get the cut back, or go to the inside or go to the outside. Then you've got somebody else trying to get past you as well. So you've got to, like you say, look in your mirrors, be really aware, but then at the same time look forwards and try and get your mate.
Oh, is Rast going to have a go here around the banking of the Sachs turn then? And this was exactly what you were saying a couple of laps ago, how you can use the banking, but you can also use the inside liners. Rast across the curbs. Is he going to save this? No, he's going to lose out to Paul di Resta. So a mistake there from Rast allowed the door to be opened for Paul di Resta. So he just clipped a curb, I guess, Ricky. That's what it looked like.
Yeah, so he obviously had the inside, like what we were talking about. Here we are as we go onto a slow-mo or onto a replay. And yet, just...
Oh, that car flew, didn't it?
Big.
So Rocky shut the door quite firmly, didn't he? Rast dives to the inside, launches the car over a curve. That sends him off to the other side. And lo and behold, waiting to take advantage was Paul di Resta.
That was a good hold. That was a very good hold.
To be fair, that's a save, isn't it?
That's a very good save.
That's a save.
To only lose 1 place and still be right on the back of the pack.
What it does mean is that René has got to work even harder. Tell you what, Augusto Farfus defending very hard here from Mike Rockenfeller as he makes the car very wide there. And, of course, joining into that party now, here comes Paul di Resta on the inside of Mike Rockenfeller. This becomes the outside of the next turn. But he's done it before they get to the outside, because di Resta does go through on the inside of that turn, which does become the outside of the next one, but Paul di Resta goes through. So now the fight for Augusto Farfus is going to be against Paul di Resta, the Mercedes-Benz driver, who all of a sudden has improved 2 places, hasn't he?
But can anybody overtake? Because this man is defending extremely well.
He is. He is.
He's a king of defending, and he's the king, and he's one of the kings of overtaking. So it'd be interesting as well with Paul, and Paul's obviously a fantastic overtaker, to see how these guys fight now on the next lap.
This is going to be fascinating, isn't it? So Augusto Farfus, and now here comes René Rast back again. In goes Mike Rockenfeller, which has really rather spoiled the party for us now, because he's gone in for his pit stop. Every driver, of course, has to make a mandatory pit stop. And here comes Mike Rockenfeller then in car number 99. New livery from Mike Rockenfeller this year. It's going to take me a little while to get used to that, but I don't think I've called him wrong yet. So in comes Rocky. Now, the teams rehearse and train these pit stops, don't they, Ricky?
It's great. It's done like clockwork, especially when it's done like that. You know,
oh, it's fantastic.
The guys have done a fantastic job there. But yeah, it can be won and lost in the pit stops.
You're reliant on your team, aren't you? You know, as a racing driver, you need them to be on it, and on it they certainly were. Right, here is Timo Glock and Pascal Wehrlein, and then behind them it's Eduardo Mortara and Marco Wittmann. So, Eduardo Mortara then and Pascal Wehrlein, both of whom have got past Marco Wittmann, because Marco Wittmann was running in P4, wasn't he? Let's take a look at some slow-mos here. This in replay then was the start of the race, and Philip Eng was the one that didn't get away, but eventually does. But of course, good avoidance there by Jamie Green, who avoided clattering into the back of that BMW. You have to be aware, don't you?
It's very, very easy, because, you know, the car is actually, they are kind of blind, especially there, because, you know, Green was completely blinded there by his teammates. So, you know, good avoidance by all the guys. But here we go, on board at the start.
So René Rast in a fight then with Mike Rockenfeller and Bruno Spengler, and a little bit of a love tap between Rocky and Spengler. Rast takes to the runoff area, and that gives him a little bit of a slingshot. Matthias Ekstrom, another fantastic start. The magic of Matthias then right at the start of this race. And to his outside then, Robin Prins, but Matthias Ekstrom then in his farewell races, if you like. And there you can see Pascal Wehrlein running very, very wide using that runoff area. Right, let's go back to the live race now. And it's Lucas Auer, who's very cleverly maintained a margin of exactly a second ahead of Gary Paffett, which means Paffett is not in the DRS window. He has not got that DRS advantage, as we can see into the hairpin now. René Rast on the inside of Augusto Farfus.
It's going to be a drag race.
It is. So Rast will have the inside line through the next turn, but that, as I've mentioned before, becomes the outside, and Augusto needs to keep his foot in. A lock up from René Rast. Augusto tighter through the turn again. Rast running wide. That means Augusto Farfus is able to come back at him. It's good, clean racing between the two of them, to be fair. Not a touch, was there, Ricky?
Good, clean, hard racing. What we love to see.
Absolutely. It's what DTM is all about. And the drivers having to work ever more harder because of that sort of 30% reduction in aero now. Around the banking of the Sachs turn again, Augusto Farfus will make his BMW nice and wide. Timo Glock dives into the pit lane for his mandatory pit stop. So in Timo Glock, also in is Marco Wittmann. Now you have a pit limiter, pit speed limiter, don't you? You have to manually engage that button, don't you, Ricky?
Yeah. So as you, it's a good camera angle. As you see the guys come on entry to the pit lane, they'll hit the button.
Yep.
And then as you're then slowing down, you know, you then reach the speed, and then you hold it. And it sounds quite straightforward, but it's very easy to make a mistake.
We can see Marco Wittmann leaving his pit box there as he got the car absolutely sideways. Brilliant to watch. And there's Augusto Farfus and René Rast. They're continuing to fight over this place. Now René Rast has got ahead of Augusto Farfus, and just behind, here comes Farfus coming back, but he's not going to be able to do it. Now, just behind them, we've got Daniel Juncker-Dea and Nico Müller, of course, Mercedes Audi. It's that battle that we pick up on now. And Juncker-Dea, if he can keep his foot in now, he's going to have the inside. No, he has to dial out of it. Oh, what a shame. I really thought that Danny Juncker-Dea was going to be on the inside of Nico Müller going into that turn. Wow. We haven't had a moment to breathe yet, Ricky Collard. What a race we're seeing.
And the other person, the little secret assassin we've got here, is Philip Eng. He obviously had...
Secret assassin?
Yeah, secret
Where
assassin.
did that come from?
Well, where's he come from? He's come all the way up to P14 now. So he's... what's going to be really interesting, you're going to see a different driving style here, because Philip is coming from a GT background.
Yes.
The cars obviously move around quite a bit more.
Yes.
So maybe the qualifying performance wasn't quite there.
Right.
But I reckon you're going to see Philip, the secret assassin, creep through the pack as everyone's tyres start to go off, because he's just going to feel more natural with it.
Okay, that's a really interesting point, and we'll see if that plays out. I mean, there's no question about it. He is an extremely talented driver, as is Bruno Spengler, who doesn't seem to get away from the pit lane quite as quickly as I thought he would. Also in is Augusto Farfus, then the Brazilian, and a problem there, wasn't there, with the wheel gun.
It's a bit of a shame. Maybe it cost him a couple of seconds, but...
Do you know what? For Augusto Farfus in DTM, if luck is going to run out for anybody, it's always for Augusto, it seems to be. Great shame. Now, tyre warmers, of course, not allowed in DTM. So, basically, that means when you put a new set of tyres on, they've not been pre-warmed. Now, that means, of course, they're cold, and that means they don't offer the grip that the previous tyres did. So you've got to really be on tiptoes a bit, haven't you, for the first lap?
Yeah, well, I can say that just from experience with the cold tyre is the cold tyre actually does take, I would say, we're looking at around half a lap. Oh,
whoa, that was debris, wasn't it? Was that debris that we saw there? Well spotted.
But, yeah, sorry, I hope there's nothing wrong with it. I hope that hasn't infringed Lucas at all.
Well, but whose car would it have been off?
Very, very strange.
Whose car would that have been off? We've had a number of drivers come in for it was a bird. It was a bird. It wasn't debris. It was a bird that has gone to meet its maker, I would suggest, because you don't want to be struck by Lucas Auer, do you?
Definitely don't want to be struck by a DTM car.
Philip Eng is the silent assassin.
Maybe we'll just stay away from assassins.
Yeah, let's do that.
As Pascal Wehrlein comes in now for his pit stop.
And we've got the clock running on Pascal Wehrlein and Team Rush, and they've got a problem, haven't they?
The lollipops come up, so that would indicate to the driver to leave. Pascal's done a fantastic job there to not...
He realised, didn't he?
Yeah. That was a smart move.
That's compromised him in the where he's going to be filtering back out on track as Timo Glock goes through. Pascal Wehrlein now, bear in mind, he's on cold tyres. Now, you say it takes a period of time to get those tyres up to speed as Marco Wittmann comes past, and presumably Mike Rockefeller will try and do the same as well, because you're defenceless at this point, aren't you?
Yeah, and here we go, look. Just with more grip.
Just drives through.
And what will be interesting now is Spengler on one lap warmer tyres. Will he come and catch Pascal? Pascal does not look happy about that, does he?
Look, well, he's always very, very focused, and I think this shot is one of the most evocative in the DTM car, to see the driver hard at work and the focus and concentration. And, you know, it's not like a normal steering wheel. It's like a steer control that you've got in these cars, isn't it?
Oh, it's great. It really is great. And especially, like you say, when we do these little taxi rides, is we actually get the guys that the VIPs and stuff, they get to jump in the car, and the only way to describe it is a spaceship. It's literally like jumping on board, strapping up, and getting ready for a couple of hot laps.
In now from P2 is Gary Paffett. So the team go to work, the HWA team, flat out on the Gary Paffett car to get this stop done as quickly as possible. And Paffett is away. It's an 8.1 stop. He backs the back end of the car out. In comes Joel Eriksson from behind that we can see as well. So here comes Gary Paffett. And there is the Timo Glock car. Now, bear in mind that the race all gets muddled up because of these pit stops. Lucas Auer not yet been in. So on board with Timo Glock now. This is his opportunity, isn't it, to get on terms with Gary Paffett, because Glock is on tyres that are up to temperature. Paffett is not.
Yeah, definitely. If he can just try and get within that 1 second.
Yes.
You know, it's game on for Glock. You know, we saw last year, Glock just chipped away, did his own little thing, and was right there at the end of the fight. So, Lucas Auer.
Yes.
Pit this lap.
So we're going to see Lucas Auer in, and what's going to be really important for us is to see where Lucas Auer comes back out relative to Gary Paffett. That's going to be the measure for us.
Definitely. And also, look, you can see Glock is just starting to reel him in a little bit here, so we could be back onto a freeway battle again.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. This is Bruno Spengler then, and Pascal Wehrlein side by side. So Bruno Spengler in the BMW Bank car, and Pascal Wehrlein, we can see from our window, and now we can see on screen that Lucas Auer is in. So again, the HWA team will go flat out into this. Can afford no mistakes. So air goes in for the jacks to raise the car. The lollipop has gone up already.
This is very bizarre.
Yeah.
Very, very bizarre.
So here is Paffett. Where is Hour on his way out of the pit lane yet? Because this could be a change for the lead of the race. There is Lucas Hour. Now, Lucas Hour is going to be on cold tyres. Has Gary Paffett in one lap, Ricky? Will they be warm enough?
They will be warm enough. Lucas has got to get his toe down. We're gonna see a fight again.
And it's an Intermark battle between the two Mercedes-Benz drivers. Here comes Gary Paffett. He'll have DRS available to him should he wish it. He probably won't even need to use it.
No.
Look at this grip advantage after just one lap, bringing those tyres up to temperature. Gary Paffett almost cruises past Lucas Hour, fights back though on the inside. Has Paffett got his nose ahead? Yes, he has. The overtake is done through the parabolic, or even before they get to the hairpin. Lukey Hour then on cold tyres. What he doesn't want to do, he doesn't want to ruin his race and compromise by pushing too hard and going off the track. Of course, what he needs to do is to defend now against the BMW driver, Timo Glock.
Here comes Glock as well, but Lucas is doing a fantastic job to keep his cool. He hasn't locked up, he hasn't run wide, he doesn't make a mistake.
Everyone talks about when you lock up, you get this flat spot on the tyre, not having the opportunity to drive a racing car like you do. Do you really feel that when you flat spot a tyre? You can feel the vibration through the steering and it upsets your rhythm?
Yeah, definitely. The bigger the flat spot, obviously, the worse it is. So when we see drivers coming in with loads of smoke coming off their tyre where they've locked up, they're going to feel that probably for at least 5 or 6 laps before it starts to come off. And sometimes, it just can't come off at all. And the worst bit about it is it then finds the same flat spot again,
of course,
again, and then it can just become worse, and it becomes like a domino effect.
Well, now, Lucas Hour's tyres should be reasonably up to temperature. Timo Glock will have DRS available to him. Can Lucas Hour defend against Timo Glock? Gary Paffett is up the road now. Of course, the order on the left-hand side of your screen is the true race order. It's Mortara, De Resta, Rast, Juncker, Dea. Then it's Nico Muller, Philippe Eng, Duval, and Matthias Ekstrom. I say it's the true order. It's the true order pre-pit stops. The real race is from P9 on, isn't it? Because those have all made their pit stops.
Here comes
Timo Glock then to the outside of Lucas Hour, going towards the hairpin. And Lucas Hour now is got to keep that wide so that Timo Glock cannot come back underneath the car. But racing room has been left. But to be fair, he wasn't quite close enough. Because you lose so much momentum, don't you? You've got to get back on it again and try and carry as much as possible. He goes to the outside now. I love that onboard shot. It's a brilliant shot. It's what I call the splitter cam, because that's where the camera is located. I have to say, Lukey was he's a bit cheeky there. He just chucked the back end of the car out and said, no, you're not coming through, and made it as wide as possible. It's his right to do that. He's defending his position, which is effectively P2 in the race from Timo Glock. And Glock, then, you say that there's 2 definite lines around that Sachs turn, and you could see both of them being used there.
Definitely. The inside line, I think, works for the entry.
Yes.
And if you're just trying to get the move done, I think then you have to have it done before you get to the exit of that corner. Because the guys that are up on effectively the high side, if we go into NASCAR terms, they then get the run off the bank and through into the final corner.
Well, another lap is in the book. Let's see now, Timo Glock, whether he can do it on this occasion. He's closer, isn't he? He's
definitely closer. He's going to have a bit of DRS here, but Luca's got fantastic traction out of that last corner there. So here he comes on the splitter cam.
This parabolica, it just unfolds in front of you, doesn't it? Timo Glock to the outside of Lucas Hour now. And he tries to close the door. And Lucas Hour very defensive there. Here comes Timo again. He's going to be denied the momentum to get alongside the Mercedes-Benz. This is a fabulous fight, and it's a fight that's going on for effectively P2 in the race. Because those cars that haven't pitted yet. Oh, and Glock is all over the bag. He takes to the curbs there, desperately trying to find his way past this Mercedes. I'll tell you what, the pace is in that BMW of Timo Glock, isn't it?
Glock's always there. Glock is always there. And, it'd be interesting to see, because this is costing them time.
Yeah.
And, if it does settle down, which I doubt it will, will they be able to reel in Gary?
Well, and I was going to make that point. What it's doing is, as these two are fighting, Gary Paffett is rubbing his hands with invisible soap, metaphorically, isn't he? Because he's saying, I can get up the road, you two carry on fighting, because that just means that I've got a great advantage in terms of time. Oh, look at this. Pity that the visor is down because we can't see the look in the eyes, can we? As Timo Glock is continuing to hunt down Lucas Auer. There are just hundreds of seconds between the two of them, and it's fantastic to watch. In comes Matthias Ekström. Also in is Philipp Eng. Matthias Ekström on his way out then. The AB team doing a good job with him. Philipp Eng on his way out as well. So Matthias Ekström in his goodbye weekend, if you like, in DTM. Great. Let's go back to this splitter cam with Timo Glock then. Not as close as Lucas Auer now. And of course, during that fight phase, Ricky, which we've seen lap after lap after lap with these two, you're taking a lot out of your rubber there, aren't you?
Taking a lot out of your tyres, definitely. And obviously everything inside. It's a hot day today. So, you know, the engine's going to be getting hot. The brakes are going to be getting hot. Tyres are going to be getting hot. Driver is going to be getting hot. I don't know if Glock looks like such a cool dude. I don't know if he's going to be sweating.
You never know he's 64 years of age, would you? Timo, I didn't mean that. Right. He has, I mean, Lucas now has seen off the best of him. In this, as we see in now comes Eduardo Mortara. Let me ask you this. In this situation with Timo Glock really, really chasing down hard, do you ever, as a racing driver, do you think, right, I'm just going to ease off, I'm going to let the car, the brakes, everything cool down just a little bit before I have another go?
There is that, definitely. You know, from experience, I've done that before. You know, sometimes you know you've only got 1 or 2 shots at it. So yeah, maybe we might be seeing Glock now as he has dropped back just...
It's quite a lot, isn't it?
A bit more now.
It's a second, it's 1.1 seconds, so he's out of DRS now in terms of the fight against Lucas Auer. So, well, we will see how it unfolds. We've still got 22 minutes of this. Where's the first lump of time gone? There's been so much going on. 22 minutes remaining. Eduardo Mortara then. The only drivers that have not yet stopped are René Rast, Danny Juncadella and Nico Müller. So 2 Audis and a Mercedes. And talking of Mercedes, there's Eduardo Mortara then. Around Parabolica. So the fight for P4, which is Wittmann, Rockenfeller and Wehrlein, isn't it? And here is René Rast then, who's nominally leading the race, but he has got to come in for his mandatory pit stop as well. So you can see there with that lovely onboard shot how you brake with your left foot. Do you do that in the in your taxi rides as well?
Yeah, definitely. It's
maybe an art, isn't it?
Maybe it's a bit more of a modern thing. You know, I come from karting background, so obviously you only have team radio. We only have 2 pedals. So yeah, for me, it's quite natural to do a left foot braking, but I know, for example, like my dad, my granddad, they don't understand. They don't understand why you would brake with your left foot, because how are you going to clutch and heel and toe and do all this other cool stuff? So
can I just say, your granddad, one Mr. Mick Collard, was the biggest and best exponent of sideways driving I have ever seen in my life. Mick Duffy Collard was a legend in the UK in terms of sideways driving, and of course your father Rob is a current British touring car racer, and he's no slug either, that's for sure. So you come from jolly good racing stock, young Ricky.
A good little stable, I suppose.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, on the pit wall, that's where the tension is at the greatest, of course. Now, everyone getting ready for René Rast to come in. And here we can see René Rast then. As momentarily we lose the pictures, but we get them back again. And Rast and Juncadella and Müller, the 3 drivers that have not yet stopped for their mandatory pit stop. So will Rast choose to come in this time? Of course, it's completely free choice, isn't it, Ricky? When they decide to come in, it's up to the driver.
Yeah, and I think I've just heard that Rast just come on the radio now saying that he wants to pit, and there he goes, straight into the pit.
Box, box, box. René Rast is in. So the other 2 that we need to see in the pit lane, well, Danny Juncadella is one of them, and he's in. Nico Müller choosing to stay out.
That was a late call by Rast.
And that's where the team has to be ready, don't they? Because ultimately, everything needs to be in place.
And he's just passed his marks as well, so now that The team have got to work really, really hard to get.
How does that affect things when you just go past those yellow marks that we can see?
What a great stop though. But oh, this is going to be close to the exit.
Oh, it was close. It was close. But René Rast just stays ahead of Danny Unkadea, doesn't he? But both of them now, of course, are vulnerable, aren't they? Because they're on cold tyres. So straight away, we can see that Robin Frijns is able to take advantage. So there is Rast, the number 4 car then with Robin Frijns, who's up to temperature, or rather his tyres rather than himself are up to temperature. Mike Rockenfeller, Marco Wittmann here having a fight, and this is a fight over P7. And trying to buy into that as well as Pascal Wehrlein, almost 3 abreast. The big winner here could be Wehrlein, look. Look at this, he's cut a swathe between Mike Rockenfeller and Marco Wittmann.
What a fight back though. That was epic. I don't think Marco deliberately wanted to do the overtake there, but he had Wehrlein all over the back of him, so he had no other choice. Great move, great bit of racing. Perfect DTM. Bring some more of that on.
Well, it is delivering in every single way, and I thought Pascal was going to get 2 at once at that point. In comes Nico Müller at long last. Nico Müller, the last of the drivers to come in for his mandatory pit stop. The number 51 car and the AB team go to work on that Castrol Edge liveried machine. And let's take a look at the time, 7.7. That's a good time. Sideways for Nico Müller then as he leaves the pit lane. And the race resumes to what is effectively its correct order. Here it is. This was where they were side by side in replay. René Rast to the left, Danny Unkadea on his way down, and Danny had to yield, didn't he?
Danny did have to yield there. I don't know if there will be any further investigation onto that, but yeah, I think Danny did the right thing there.
If Daniel hadn't have yielded, there would have been contact,
yeah.
Wouldn't there?
Danny did the right thing.
Now,
Look at this.
This was brilliant. I really thought Pascal
left
was going to
side,
do
right
both
side,
of them.
left side. And then Pascal.
I really, as I say, I thought he was going to do both of them. And that would have been, I mean, it was epic as it was. It would have been beyond epic, wouldn't it? On board with Pascal Wehrlein, he so nearly got to the inside, didn't he? This is where it started, isn't it, for Marco Wittmann and Mike Rockenfeller. And there you can just see, just sometimes lurking behind, Ricky, is the place to be. Let them two do the fighting and just take advantage of it.
As a racing driver, it is lovely to see that going on in front of you, because you know that you're going to be in the prime position to go left or right. But, you know, that was awesome. We had 3 different manufacturers.
He's done it now, incidentally. He has got past him.
Be interesting to see how he's finally done it, because it was good, hard, clean racing, which we love to see.
It was, absolutely. Right, so we're back to the proper race order now. Paffett has got a 1.7-second margin over Lucas Auer. Look at the pace Pascal Wehrlein has got, though.
But look at the train of cars as well. This is a proper fight for what is effectively 4th position.
I know. So Paffett with 1.7 seconds of margin over Lucas Auer, then it's Timo Glock in P3, then it's Wehrlein, Wittmann, Rockenfeller, Spengler, that sort of 4-way fight that's going on for P4 almost, and Eduardo Mortara's joining into that as well, as if there wasn't enough cars there. Look at them. So there's Rocky, behind him is Bruno Spengler, and under investigation, the incident between Unkadea and René Rast, that of course is when they came out of the pit lane, isn't it? You're side by side, and I genuinely believe that, you know, Daniel did the right thing. However, compromised him, didn't it? Because he would have been a place ahead. Yeah,
Danny definitely did the right thing. I think the stewards will make the right call.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think I'm happy to be up here in the comms box and
yes,
not in the stewards room now.
Steward, no, absolutely. So, Pascal Wehrlein then, who is running in P4. And, of course, the best news for Pascal Wehrlein is for this lot to continue to fight behind him, because that just means he can get on with his job and get up the road, can't he?
Yeah, definitely. You know, as we see all the time, when these guys, it looks great, and it is awesome to see the fighting going on. It is slowing them down a little bit, which is allowing, you know, these top 3 guys to get away. And as well, now Pascal is just trying to get away from this fight that's going on. But yeah, I love a fight. We love to watch. This is what the fans came here to see, and this
absolutely.
is. Look at how big the grandstands are. The grandstands are absolutely packed this weekend.
So Paffett then has extended his margin at the front by another couple of tenths over Lucas Auer. So Paffett P1, Auer P2, then it's Glock, Wehrlein, Wittmann, Rockenfeller, Spengler, Mortara, De Resta, and Joel Eriksson in the top 10 in his debut race for DTM. And, you know, credit to Joel Eriksson. So there is the Marco Wittmann car and Mike Rockenfeller. They're beginning to space themselves out a little bit now. It's only when you get back to Bruno Spengler and Eduardo Mortara. Here they come. Eduardo Mortara on the inside of Bruno Spengler now as they head towards the hairpin. He'll try and dive through. And whoa, Joel Eriksson and Paul De Resta. Joel Eriksson having a go at Paul De Resta. So that's really good to see. And that's the battle for P9 and P10, with De Resta remains ahead of Joel Eriksson for the moment.
That was a slight lock-up. Oh, no, and then there we go, down the inside. And Spengler makes the move as well.
Rocky loses out in 2 places there, doesn't he? So what caused that error? Was it pressure that got to Mike Rockenfeller?
To be honest, I was looking at Marco, and I could just see Marco had a small lock-up on the rear. But here we go, here's a replay of...
This was Edo Mortara on Bruno Spengler, wasn't it? So Edo up the inside. And into the hairpin they go, and very nearly touching the back end of the Mike Rockenfeller car. He then makes the car wide. Now, this was Mike Rockenfeller. That just seems like it was an error.
It was just the slightest lock-up, and you could see Marco had a slight lock-up on the rear.
Right.
And then, you know, if you're following as another driver, you see the other guy go slightly wide, and then so maybe that's what happened to Rocky.
He was probably reacting to what was going on ahead of him. Split-second reactions.
The tiny little bit, and I think his was just an inside lock-up on the front left.
Fair point. Great replay there of Edo Mortara doing the job on Bruno Spengler. Here is our race leader, Gary Paffett, who has extended by another couple of tenths. You can see over the last 3 laps. He's built that up to a 2-second margin now. So Paffett leading from Lucas Auer, then it is Timo Glock in P3, then Pascal Wehrlein, then Marco Wittmann, Edo Mortara. So Gary Paffett then in the all-blue livery for his Mercedes-Benz this year, the final year of Mercedes-Benz in DTM, very sadly. With just under 12 minutes of this race remaining, he has got a 2.2-second margin over Lucas Auer. Inevitably, you know, the Mercedes are showing very, very good pace here, aren't they? The last of the Mercedes at the moment is Daniel Juncadella, who's just outside the top 10, running in P11. So here is Eduardo Mortara on Marco Wittmann now. So again, it's almost a carbon copy of the Bruno Spengler, isn't it? Around the parabolica, inside. You can see the sparks and the smoke coming off the bottom of the car. Is it really that uneven around the parabolica, Ricky?
It's not the track surface.
Right.
It's actually as they open the DRS wing. But you can just see Marco, there's nothing really that he can do. He's just a sitting duck there without DRS.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's actually the aerodynamics of the car actually making it flex.
Okay.
But, yeah, nothing really that Marco could do there.
No, as you say, you're defenceless, aren't you? But there are situations, of course, if you're within a second of the car ahead of you, you can use it in defence as well. So it can be used as an overtake or a defender. But Eduardo Mortara, another one that's showing fantastic pace. And he now up to P5. To say, I've mentioned it more than once in this programme, I'm loving the livery of that Mercedes car. And is he going to be able to get on terms here with Pascal Wehrlein? Because he looks a little bit quicker. Bruno Spengler and Marco Wittmann trading places. And Mike Rockenfeller, a little bit of a love tap there between Mike Rockenfeller and Paul De Resta. And De Resta is going through, isn't he? Yes. De Resta through on Mike Rockenfeller. So that's a change for the P8 position. And Joel Eriksson trying to buy into it as well, up the inside of Mike Rockenfeller now. Brilliant overtake from Joel Eriksson.
That was late and that was hard, and Joel means business.
Executed that well, didn't he?
And that was really good to see, because he came from such a distance.
Yes.
It would have been so easy to just lock the inside front there.
Okay.
And then that would have pushed him a little bit wide, and then Rocky could have fought back. But no, really, really good driving there by Joel. I've
been impressed with Joel throughout the free practices and qualifying, and now in the race as well. He's really acquitted himself well in DTM so far. You know, the guy is a rookie in DTM and is running in P9, chasing down Paul De Resta now. There's the number 23 car of Daniel Juncadella, also on the back of Mike Rockenfeller now. This is the fight that's going on for P10. So Rocky desperately trying to hold on to that P10 position. Wherever you look, there are things going on here. Now, interestingly, you can see the DRS usage on the left-hand side of your screen. Bruno Spengler on 0. He's got no more DRS available to him.
This could be quite difficult come these last couple of laps, but you can see the different tactics that are being in play, that are being used by drivers. So Spengler has probably used all his DRSs to try and get to the front and get out of this battle. And then he might be hoping that if he can get in the front and get out of this battle, then he won't have to worry about it too much at the end. But if he can't get the gap, then he might be in a little bit of trouble.
Well, Mike Rockenfeller was in trouble because Daniel Juncadella has just gone past him like a hot knife through butter. Sorry, getting my descriptions wrong again. Incidentally, the incident between between René Rast and Daniel Juncadella, I was right, in the pit lane where we saw the cars side by side, is going to be reported to the stewards at the end of the meeting. I have to say, I think if anyone's going to be penalised for that, I think it will probably be René, won't it?
Unfortunately so, yeah. You obviously saw Danny had to hit the brakes to avoid contact, and yeah, bit of a shame, but
that's racing.
That's racing, as they say.
Pascal Wehrlein, Eduardo Mortara. Now, Mortara is getting closer to Pascal Wehrlein. So, the order then, Gary Paffett, Lucas Auer, Timo Glock, Pascal Wehrlein, Edo Mortara. Bruno Spengler out of DRS usage now is P6, therefore could he be vulnerable to Marco Wittmann? Or is Wittmann going to act as a wingman for Bruno Spengler and hold up Paul di Resta, Joel Eriksson and Danny Juncadella behind him? We will see. The other person, interestingly, that's out of DRS is Mike Rockenfeller, who we've seen lose a number of places, haven't we?
Yeah, especially now you see, like, if Spengler can get this gap to over a second and just stay out of DRS, he might just be able to get away from the rest of the pack. But for sure, if he starts to fall back into this pack, this strategy could backfire a little bit.
Mike is under pressure now from René Rast. So René Rast then in the number 33 car on the inside of Mike Rockenfeller now. And he goes through, and again, Rast with, as you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, he's got advantage left to him. And this is Joel Eriksson potentially losing out here to Daniel Juncadella. If he makes that stick, and he did make that stick, that was brilliant driving from Juncadella, who moves himself up into P9.
Yeah, great move there by Danny. It was just a shame, I think Joel just looked that inside front that we were talking about.
And that's enough, isn't it, to open a window of opportunity?
Yeah, just that small little lock-up is all it takes for someone like Danny to jump on and get through. But it'd be interesting now to see if Joel can fight back, because how many DRS usages has Joel got?
He's got 3 left.
He's still got
3 laps remaining,
yeah.
Which he can use it. So theoretically, he should be able to come back. Now, relative to Danny Juncadella, who's only got 1 left, if he's clever about this, he'll wait for Juncadella to lose them all, and then he can come back, and Juncadella presumably would be something like a sitting duck, wouldn't he? But we will see. In the meantime, here comes Eduardo Mortara on Pascal Wehrlein. Now, here, Eduardo Mortara has got 8 laps worth of DRS left, as opposed to Pascal Wehrlein, who's only got 2. So Eduardo Mortara to the inside here at the hairpin, and goes through on Pascal Wehrlein. So Eduardo Mortara becomes P4 in this race. Eduardo Mortara relegating Pascal Wehrlein to P5. Oh, another really, really good onboard shot. Paffett, in the meantime, is quietly going about this, look, increasing his lead to now 3.1 seconds. We've got just over 5 minutes plus 1 lap of this race remaining. The first DTM race of 2018. We're delighted you're watching it and hope you're reveling in the race action that we're seeing as well and enjoying it as much as we are. So that was Eduardo Mortara on the inside at the hairpin. Goes through, sticks his elbows out, and just makes sure that Wehrlein's not going to come back at him. And sure enough, Eduardo Mortara, you can see, has opened up a margin already, hasn't he? Having done that and moving himself into that P4 position. So the lone driver that is splitting the Mercedes dominance at the moment is Timo Glock. The dominance that is led by this man who we're on board with right now, Gary Paffett, who of course has got more DRS left available to him than anybody else, because of course he has led the race and is untroubled by Lucas Auer behind. Gary Paffett goes through the hairpin. I wonder if Gary knows how many laps of Hockenheim that he's driven in his career, but a lot. Knows the place inside out. Right. To the inside now. There's 2 overtakes going on here. I've picked up on the one at the front with Paul Rast and you with a sharp inhale of breath as René Rast went through on Joel Eriksson.
That was really close. It would be great to see a replay of that, but it's interesting now we're seeing Joel fall back a little bit because he had the pace and was coming through, but he still has all these DRS usages.
Yeah.
So I don't think we've seen the end of Joel Eriksson. I think this battle will carry on.
I think you're right.
But maybe his tyres might be going off a little bit.
Possibly so. Now, there is Paul Rast, who is running in P8 with Daniel Unforgettable behind. And then, of course, it is René Rast rather than Joel Eriksson, having just completed that overtake. So we're into the final 3 minutes plus 1 lap or so of this race. Gary Paffett just lost out on a couple of tenths now. The margin 2.8, but just get the impression that probably Gary Paffett is managing that perfectly against Lucas Auer, isn't he?
He's probably just being saying to himself in his head, you know, just bring this home.
Yes.
You know, it's a great way to start your season if you can open it with a pole position and a race win. So
long time since we've seen Gary Paffett on the top step of the podium. I have to go deep into my memory bank. Possibly now is not the time to be doing that. So Paffett, Auer, Glock, Mortara, Wehrlein and Spengler. And at the moment, Bruno doing a very good job in terms of defending that P6 position. Of course, Marco Wittmann behind him hasn't got any DRS available to him, but here comes an overtake, and there was a little touch there, wasn't there?
It looked like it was very, very, very close.
Paul Rast and Marco Wittmann, it did really look like. And here comes Joel Eriksson. You said he's going to have a go again and going to come back at this.
Hasn't quite got the traction there on the exit, but they're going to be side by side again, running into turn.
Well, it's running into turn 7, isn't it? Which is a fast sweeping turn, isn't it? Will Joel dive to the inside now? No, he doesn't. Joel is in that purple BMW chasing down René Rast. Right behind him, he's got Loic Duval in the number 28 car. So there is Rast seen off Marco Wittmann. Marco Wittmann with Daniel Unforgettable. Right, there was a touch. Now, that was great control by Paul Rast to hold on to that, wasn't it?
Yes, that was very, very good control by both drivers, but...
Now, in the past, with the number of aero flicks that they had at the front, that would have rendered that car probably almost undrivable, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Which is another great thing that's been developed in DTM. The cars are less sensitive to having a piece knocked off them.
It's great, and as well, we're still keeping the lap time. You know, we're under lap record pace.
Yes.
So, you know, the cars are faster than ever. And the racing is better than ever. So I think all in all, it's just a complete positive what DTM have done here.
Win-win, isn't it? So Paffett, talking of win-win, is just 1 minute and 10 seconds plus 1 lap away. However, I think, for my money, Lucas Auer is getting just a bit closer. It's a huge gap for Lucas Auer to have to reel in, but you know what? Let's just be quiet about this because I think he is doing it. I think we're going to have this lap and probably 2 more if my time calculations are correct in terms of where we're at, because it's 55 minutes plus 1 lap. So if they cross the timing line with any seconds left on the clock at the top of your screen, that means they will get 1 lap plus the 1 lap, I think. Sorry.
Get your calculator out. Let's have a little look.
So here comes Paffett then. And there is Lucas Auer in P2. A full 4 seconds behind is Timo Glock, though. Just see his... Oh, we didn't actually see his BMW into the picture there. Here comes Gary Paffett to round the final turn. So, yes, he's going to cross that line with about 11 seconds left on the clock. Well, make it 10. So that means the remainder of this lap plus 1 more. So, Lucas, you've got 2 laps to try and get on terms with Gary Paffett. In replay then, super slow-mo, fantastic driving from Lucas Auer as he really throws that car around this circuit. And of course, you sit so far back, don't you, in a DTM car?
And is the window out on that car?
Sorry?
It looks like the window's fallen out of his car.
Fair point, well picked up.
That's one way to get air conditioning, I suppose.
Of course, but it would provide drag, which would cause problems, wouldn't it?
Huge amount of drag, yeah.
Let's look again. Do you know, I think you might be right. Well spotted, Mr. Collard. There is Timo Glock, who of course is P3. Paffett with 2 seconds of advantage now, so Lukey has pulled out 2/10. A little lock up there from Gary Paffett, and this fight continues. We have Marco Wittmann, René Rast, then it's Joel Eriksson, and behind Joel Eriksson, it's Loic Duval who's trying to buy his way into this, and it looks like he's done it, although Joel Eriksson will squeeze him out now, locks the car up. That could make him vulnerable to Loic Duval, who's right on the outside of Joel Eriksson now and does go through. That was close.
Great racing.
Absolutely fantastic to watch, and that battle is all going on for sort of P10, 11, 12, isn't it?
It's interesting though, because you look at this, you've got Eriksson's still got 2 DRSs left.
Yes.
So that means he isn't using his DRS every single lap, which is a bit surprising really, but here we go, here's the... Didn't want to give up that place, did he?
Look at this fight.
Did not want to give up that place.
Locks up.
Good man.
And that compromised, unfortunately, and so the entry to the turn is fine, but he's lost momentum for the exit, hasn't he? And that's when he's had the advantage and been able to go through. So Loic Duval then did go through. This, though, is Gary Paffett, and it's down to 1.8 seconds, the margin between P1 and P2, both Mercedes-Benz cars. Gary Paffett, then it's Lukas Sauer, and then P3 is Timo Glock before we find another 2 Mercedes, Edo Mortara and Pascal Wehrlein. Then it's Bruno Spengler, Paul de Resta, Danny Juncadella, and the best of the Mercedes, as in terms of qualifying as well, best of the Audis rather, in terms of race as well as qualifying, is René Rast down there in P9. So Audi, we always knew that they'd really got the aero sussed in last season. It would appear with the reduction of aero, it's really hurting Audi at the moment, but don't expect it to stay like that. The one thing we know about DTM is we can look at what has happened in race 1. That does not give us a form guide for race 2.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And you know, the guys are just collecting so much information and so much data.
Here comes Gary Paffett then. Forgive me interrupting you. He's going to take the checkered flag and wins at Hockenheim. The British driver Gary Paffett takes the win for Mercedes-Benz. Lukas Sauer is P2. Here comes Timo Glock for P3. It's Eduardo Mortara, P4. Pascal Wehrlein will take P5. Uli Fritz on the pit wall's pretty happy. BMW's Bruno Spengler takes P6. Then it's Paul de Resta, Danny Juncadella, René Rast and Loic Duval, the top 10 places. And, well, Timo's team are pretty happy down there.
The boys look pretty happy with that as a solid podium, a solid result. But yeah, I'm sure all the engineers are going to be working extremely hard back at BMW and Audi to try and catch the Mercedes, because their Mercedes are really quick.
And the old stalwart, Gary Paffett then, at the end, closed with the checkered flag with a 1.4 second margin over Lukas Sauer to take the win. So well done, Gary Paffett. So Paffett, Auer, Timo Glock, Mortara, Wehrlein, Spengler, de Resta, Juncadella, Rast and Loic Duval. And as I mentioned, Mercedes-Benz must be absolutely delighted. And Uli Fritz, of course, the boss of Mercedes DTM. Let's see what he's got to say.
And Uli Fritz certainly is a very happy man. Congratulations, a double win for the first race week, or the first race week and the first race. That's a pretty good result. You've got to be happy.
Yeah, I mean, we are pretty happy. I mean, I think we really had a great pace in the whole race. I mean, throughout all cars, I must say. I mean, all the cars are in the, I think, top 8, all 6 cars. So happy with that, and really a great result. And I'm so happy for Gary, because, to be honest, since I'm in DTM, he has always promised me to bring a win, and it's never happened. And it's just the first one now, and it's just overwhelming and great.
But that's one thing I've got to ask about, the strategy between the two, between Gary and Lukas. Does that have something to do with that, with the strategy?
No, I don't think so. I mean, normally Lukas should have been a better strategy, because he could have done an overcut, but his in-lap was quite slow. So in the end, he's ended up in him being second afterwards.
All right, well, congratulations again. See you later. Thank you, and back to you.
Always knew that Uli Fritz was going to be delighted, and delighted he was as he saw Gary Paffett as Uli Fritz said, has been promising win, and he brings the win home. The checkered flag as Gary Paffett crosses the line to win the first DTM race of 2018. Many spectators here to enjoy the race action that saw Gary Paffett taking the win from Lucas Auer, Timo Glock. Then it was Eduardo Mortara, Pascal Wehrlein, Bruno Spengler, Paul de Resta, Daniel Juncadella, René Rast and Loic Duval rounding out the top 10 in that first race, with Marco Wittmann P11. Then it was Joel Eriksson, Nico Müller, Mike Rockenfeller, Augusto Farfus, Philipp Eng, and then it was Matthias Ekström, Robin Frijns and Jamie Green. Cars down there in Parc Fermé, and of course drivers will be heading up to the podium. But we watch now as Gary Paffett exits the car, and we say a big thank you to Ricky Collard, who was with us during the race, offering us a driver's eye perspective on what and who were doing out there on track. So Paffett out of the car and absolutely delighted. Did all the hard work, of course, in qualifying, putting the car P1, and then drove faultlessly during the course of the race to convert that P1 into the win. Timo Glock is getting out of his third place BMW. Drivers all having to be weighed, of course. Media will be awaiting speaking to each and every one of them, and then the drivers will be sent up to the podium. So this was the Lucas Auer bird incident. We thought it was debris off of a car. It wasn't. It was Lucas Auer with some wildlife here at Hockenheim. So all the discussions going on down there in Parc Fermé as we speak, and this is all going on whilst the drivers are being weighed. And then hustled off to media interviews, and then up to the podium. And of course, no rest for these drivers. They're going to be out qualifying again tomorrow for another race to come tomorrow. And in the Drivers' Championship then, Gary Paffett, of course, bear in mind, points are awarded for qualifying as well, and Gary Paffett on pole position and taking the race win means that he's maxed out his points haul to 28, a full 10 ahead of Lucas Auer, P2, Timo Glock is P3, Eduardo Mortara, P4. With Pascal Wehrlein, Bruno Spengler, Paul de Resta, Danny Juncadella, René Rast and Marco Wittmann rounding out the top 10 in terms of the Drivers' Championship. So Gary Paffett going into tomorrow's race with a good points advantage, as I say, absolutely maximising his points haul, because able to take the 3 points for P1 in qualifying, and of course the full points for the race win means he's on 28. There's Lucas Auer. Young Austrian is a real talent, and will be on the second step of the podium in just a few moments' time. And Gary Paffett then will be on the top step. Congratulations, by the way. Well, you know what? Gary's had enough. He's off. Brilliant to see him celebrate in Parc Fermé. And the celebrations and super shots that we're able to see there. Real mix in terms of British fortunes, with Gary Paffett taking the win, Jamie Green finishing plumb last. So different to the opening round last year. So the 1, 2, 3 pose for the photos in front of their cars then. So drivers will be sent up and hustled up towards the podium. And Gary Paffett is the race-winning driver. Let's hear from him now.
Gary, finally, congratulations. What a fantastic race. I saw you running over there, hugging your boys, first of all. You've got to be absolutely thrilled.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, qualifying today, first of all, was incredible. To have a 2:10s gap at the front is unheard of in this series. So we knew the car was fast, and we just had to get the job done. You know, I made a good start. I was happy with that. Lucas was a bit quicker in the first stint, so he got past, but you know, we waited as long as we could for the pit stop to stay in front of Timo. And then the car in the second stint was incredible. You know, we just managed to pull a big gap and cruised home, which is always nice when you can do that.
The season can continue like that, right?
Yeah, it's a fantastic start to the year, and although it's only one race, it's great signs. The car is quick, so we're in the fight.
Can't wait what we're going to see from you this season. Thank you very much, Gary. And I'm going to try to grab the other two guys. I think I just need a few minutes, so back to you for the moment.
No problem, Gary. Then you are in the fight, as you rightly say. To music now, super slow-mos to the top three. Timo Glock, Lucas Auer, and Gary Paffins. So bringing the car home in P3, the BMW driver, Timo Glock.
You pushed really, really hard. Are you happy with the third place? I mean, for the first race, the podium?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a good start into the season again. We had a good sort of day from the first lap on this morning, and I just pushed hard. What didn't expect the move from Lucas in turn 8. That was brave, very good. And I just tried to follow him. I could overtake Marco at some point, and then I made one mistake in turn turn 13, which compromised us both a bit. So that was not perfect from my side, but I just had a lock up and went wide. But at the end, you know, with the pit stop doing early, pushing the Mercedes a bit or trying to put them under pressure, had worked out. So I was at least in the distance to fight with them. But Lucas, like last year, made my life hard into turn 6. He covered very well. And it was clear if I don't manage in 2 laps, it's going to be game over for my tires, and that was the case. So and that's what he knew as well. So played it very, very good, and at the end I'm just happy to finish the race because the last 3 laps were just horrible with the tires. They just dropped massively. I mean, Edo had a very good speed at the end, I think, on fresher tires. So happy with P3.
Well, congratulations to that. I'm curious about tomorrow. All right, and now Lucas. Let's try to grab Lucas. Hello there. Wow, what a fantastic race. We just heard from Timo that you really surprised him there at one corner. So are you pretty happy with the podium?
Yeah, it was okay. Congrats to Gary. Congrats to HWA and Mercedes. Obviously, it was mega because I was leading the race, but after a pit stop, I was second. But now I'm happy.
Well, that's good. Off you go onto the podium. Thank you very much, Lucas. And back to you. He did seem a bit disappointed there.
You're absolutely right. I picked up on that as well, that Lucas perhaps feeling that the win has got away from him, as we see Nico Muller and René Rast make their way down the pit lane, and right in front of our camera there was Loic Duval, and a good finish for Loic Duval, P10. So the drivers making their way up to the podium then, and absolutely right. I just felt that Lucas Auer was perhaps just a little dejected, but P2 is P2 in the points as well. So there we can see the drivers behind the podium being prepared, and it's Timo Glock that we're looking at there, and of course Bernd Schneider alongside. So very, very interesting in terms of the race today, and a really exciting race. Do bear in mind that, as I said earlier in the program, whatever the result of today's race, it provides us no form guide for what's going to happen tomorrow, as Lucas Auer is up there on the preparation area, if you like, of the podium. We'll be seeing those drivers out on the podium shortly. Just listening to some of the conversation. It was English and now isn't. Well, I think it's almost podium time. What we're waiting for, of course, is the race winner, Gary. And there, Matthias Ekström making his way down the pit lane with a big, big smile on his face. Finished P17 in the end. And Matthias Ekström then also taking part in these races. It was never planned, but it has come together. And Matthias Ekström saying goodbye to his fans the right way. So Lucas and Gary in conversation there. So Gary's up there now. Oliver Kapfenstein there from the Mercedes organisation. And Gary about to make his way onto the top step of the podium in this, the first DTM race of the season, the DTM 2018. Already looking very, very good. So the heli shot of the podium then. You can see the assembled masses around the Parc Fermé as we await the drivers making their way out for the celebrations. And race 2 to come tomorrow, qualifying of course, where the drivers will have to do it all over again in terms of getting the grid positions that they need to give them the best possible chances in the 55-minute plus 1 lap race, which will come tomorrow. We're told that weather conditions are going to be very similar. Uli Fritz from Mercedes-Benz, very happy with his driver's performance today. Just wonder what's going through Uli Fritz's mind. Of course, it must be a tempered occasion as well, because he knows that it is the last year of Mercedes-Benz in the DTM. And setting their stall out right at the start of the season, and a very, very dominant performance in the race. So just a small delay while we get the podium together, and then the drivers will be out there celebrating. It's a phenomenal season that we've got in prospect, because of course we're visiting new circuits, off to Misano in Italy, night races there. As I was saying to Ricky alongside me, to see these cars under the lights at night time, going to be something very, very impressive indeed. We return to the UK in Brands Hatch, but not on the Indy circuit at Brands Hatch, going on the full GP circuit. And I know many of the drivers very much looking forward to that as well. So I can see from our vantage point, if you like, that they're almost ready for the podium, and to invite the drivers out onto the podium so they can enjoy their success. Top step for the British driver, Gary Paffett. P2 goes the way of Lucas Auer. And for P3, for BMW, Timo Glock. And of course, Mercedes-Benz represented as the winning manufacturer. Baseball caps will come off because it is time for the national anthem. The shortened version of the national anthem plays out then, and Gary Paffett on the top step of the podium celebrating the win. And Mr. Mick Doohan then, the 5-time motorbike champion, making the trophy presentation to Gary Paffett. Good trophy as well, it is too. Mr. Bernd Schneider then, 5-time DTM champion, making the trophy presentation to Mercedes-Benz, race-winning manufacturer. Uli Fritz applauds. And Matthias Dolderer, the Red Bull Air Race champion, makes the second place trophy presentation to Lucas Auer, who, for my money, still looks a bit subdued up there on the podium. And the one that remains is for Timo Glock, Fabian Rival, then the Team World Champion. Nordic Combined 2017 makes the trophy presentation to Timo Glock. So the trophies will be held aloft then, the photographs will be taken as they all try and clamber together onto the top step of the podium. And there from the Parc Fermé area, we can see what it's like to look up there. Timo's team pretty happy with that P3 place. And that is the way to open the champagne. And the poor girls get really rather soaked. to say the most unelevated, if you like, of the champagne ceremony is Gary Pavitt, who's just standing on the top step and just spraying everybody in. Thinking, why am I going to move? So Lucas Hauer takes a big slug, and Timo Glock and Lucas and Gary celebrating. And a fine race to open the 2018 championship for DTM has been unveiled on track, if you like. And the 1, 2, 3 all up there. And they're just discussing the bottle opening, which I thought was brilliant. So Gary Pavitt then on the top step of the podium holds his trophy aloft in replay and is applauded. So a fantastic race for the British driver. So the Hockenheimring, which plays host to the opening and closing of DTM, once again as the story and success has unfolded for another season of DTM racing. Make sure you join us tomorrow for quali for race 2. Up here in comms, that's it from us, and we leave the goodbyes to the track.
What a fantastic first race here at the Hockenheimring. Truly amazing and very surprising, and I can't wait to find out how the race goes tomorrow. So see you then, and now enjoy the highlights. Bye-bye.
Hast du verschiedene Knöpfe? Hier kann er